Good morning. I hear you all have some interest in a story or two, so we thought we would do a little poll aside for you. So let's just start.
Mr. Jim Williams.
Hey Jim, how are you?
Good.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Obviously, your reaction to the Bears.
Yeah, the news yesterday was not unexpected. I had a very cordial conversation last night with, excuse me, George McCaskey called to inform me of their purchase of the property out in Arlington. You know, as we said in our statement, the Bears are making a business decision with that purchase. We'll see what unfolds there. But we also have to make a business decision here in the city of Chicago. As a mayor, as a Bears fan, I'm going to continue to do what I can to keep them here in the city of Chicago, and I don't think that door has closed by any means. But I also need to make sure that, first and foremost, I'm doing what's best for the taxpayers of the city. The Bears cut a deal with former Mayor Richard Daley 20+ years ago. It's clearly a deal that they don't believe now works for them. But I got to know what their specific issues are, and they've got to come to the table. Let me just finish the thought if I can. So they got to come to the table. I saw George McCaskey back in June and said at that time, we're ready, willing, and able. Not much happened over the course of the summer. We were supposed to meet yesterday. They canceled the meeting for reasons that I said, you know, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We were obviously celebrating the groundbreaking of the Obama Presidential Center, but that doesn't mean that other forms of business can and shouldn't proceed. But the bottom line is they got to come to the table if they're serious about trying to do something for the remainder of their time at Soldier Field. But stepping back from the Bears, we've got an incredible asset on our lakefront. And if you think about the lakefront from the Shed down to McCormick Place, there's a tremendous amount of opportunity. But I don't think that we are nearly maximizing the opportunity that we can and we should. So we've convened a small team that's going to be looking at a lot of different options, look at best practices from across the country. But it doesn't make sense to me that we are focused just on a stadium that's now lying dormant for big chunks of the year. It should be a year-round destination place like other cities have done, even other cities with older stadiums. So I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity there for us, and I'm going to strike the best deal that I can for the taxpayers and hope that the Bears are part of that. But beyond that, we're going to maximize this incredible asset that we have on our lakefront.
The Bears seem determined to move to Arlington Heights. What realistically can you do to keep them here?
Well, I don't know what they're determined to do. I know that they have an option on a property in Arlington Heights. It's a huge property, and I think it has a lot of value. If they're determined to move, that's one thing. But I know that they've got a contract with us that runs through 2033, and as I said to McCaskey, I'm not about breaking that contract. And if they want to get out of it early, they're going to have to pay us for it. But bottom line is, I want to talk to them. I want to do what we can. I'm a Bears fan, first and foremost. I want them to stay in the named city. And if we can keep them here, we'll keep them here. And we're going to make every effort to do so. But as I said, stepping back from that, we've got to do a deal that makes sense for the taxpayers of the city.
What kinds of things are you potentially putting on the table that induces the team to stay?
Well, I'm not going to bargain here at a press conference, and I'm sure you won't be surprised to hear me say that. But I think there's a lot of creative things that we can do. Look, the stadium is the oldest stadium in the league. It's got I think the smallest seating capacity. It's hard to get to. There's a lot of things that I think we can do to enhance the fan and visitor experience that will obviously enhance the revenues for the Bears. But I'm not going to bargain against myself. They got to come to the table and put their list of asks on the table. I can't do anything about what their issues were from 20+ years ago. That's not a productive conversation. What would be productive is for them to come to the table now with a set of realistic asks. And we will work with them to meet them where they are, but do it in a way that obviously is fiscally responsible for the taxpayers of the city.
Is he involved potentially on the
I'm not going to speculate about that. As I said, they need to come to the table. There's a lot of different things that I think we can do together creatively and be innovative about maximizing revenues for them and maximizing revenues for the Park District and for the city.
Craig Wall, ABC7.
Mayor, it seems if you read the language of the statements that were put out, and I'll ask you to kind of put on your lawyer or litigator hat, it sounds like it's very carefully worded that maybe this isn't a done deal yet. They said there's a whole lot of work that's still got to be done. Is this really a done deal, or is this a negotiating tactic?
Look, I can't speculate, and I'm not going to get into the minds of the folks there. You know, what I know is that's a big, huge piece of property. It's very lucrative. Lots of people bid for it. There's a lot of uses that could maximize the revenue and the value of that property that don't have anything to do with the stadium. And you know the numbers. If you look at the last two NFL stadiums that have been built, SoFi outside of Los Angeles, Allegiant Stadium outside of Las Vegas, those are $4 or $5+ billion ventures, and privately funded. Privately funded, I want to emphasize that. So look, you know, they're making what they believe is a very smart business deal by scooping up that property. I don't know what their future long-term plans are. I think there's a lot that hasn't been written about that I think is worth exploring. But what I know is the here and now. And what I'm interested in is if they're interested, let's have a conversation. Let's sit down and figure out what we can do to maximize the opportunities for revenue for them, but also for the city. But again, stepping back from you know, a season that runs from August to January, let's see what we can do outside of that to maximize revenues. When you look at what happened just this past weekend with the Shamrock Series, as it's now called, lots of enthusiasm. That stadium was full, it was rocking, and our restaurants, our bars, our hotels were full. The venue is a very well sought after venue. We've already got a waiting list for opportunities for 2022. So I'm very bullish about what the future holds for Soldier Field. I hope the Bears are part of it, but I have a responsibility to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to maximize and catalyze that asset. And I think there's more that we can do, and I'm confident that we'll get there.
What happens if they actually leave?
There's lots of teams that don't play in a city for which they started. By my count, there's 11. If you look at the 2 New York teams, the 2 LA teams, and there's about 6 or 7 others, life goes on. This is a very valuable asset. I'm going to keep working to keep them here in Chicago. I think that's in everybody's interest if we do it. But if they choose to go elsewhere, we're going to maximize that asset, and we're going to bring great entertainment value to the lakefront at Soldier Field.
But is it a loss?
Mayor, you say you were not surprised, but there was your tweet this summer where you said they should focus on putting a good product out on the field, which didn't appear that they did. But all jokes aside.
No, and let me, go ahead, I'm sorry, finish your question.
But it looks like they sort of called your bluff.
Well, I don't think that's accurate. Their issues with Soldier Field are longstanding, way before I became mayor. And I heard a whole litany the last time that we had a substantive agreement. I can't change the deal that they struck with Rich Dealey, and I can't change the things that they wanted that they didn't get 20 plus years ago. What I can deal with is the here and the now and the future. And if they want to have a productive conversation, they got to come to the table. The door's been open all summer long, even before that. They've chosen not to take us up on that opportunity. I reopened and invited them again in my conversation last night with George McCaskey. But to be clear, I still want them to be relevant in October. I still want them to beat the Packers. And I still want them to be relevant to the playoff discussion, as every Bears fan does. If you listen to sports talk radio, which I do, people want and are rooting for the Bears, and they want them to be successful. They want this team to flourish. I certainly do as a Bears fan, and I definitely want them to beat the tar out of the Packers.
Mr. Dudek, sometimes the last report.
Go ahead.
When is the next time you have a scheduled talk with the Bears?
We do not, so I'm hoping that gets scheduled soon.
Mayor, do you think there's another NFL team that's potentially interested in Soldier Field if the Bears aren't?
Last question.
Yeah, look, I don't want to speculate about that, but here's what I know. There's a lot of interest in Soldier Field. We can't accommodate the amount of interest. And so certainly if the Bears decide that their future is in Arlington Heights, And I hope that's not the case, and we're going to continue to do everything we can to keep them here in the city. We're not going to lack for suitors to make Soldier Field a permanent home for whether it's a sports team or some other kind of activity. I'm confident in the future of Soldier Field. Look, we've got to step up and do more. Really, nothing's been done on a substantial basis since the redesign and reopening of the stadium in 2003. It's hard to get to. I'd like to improve the quality of the food and the beer selection as a Bears fan. But I think there's a lot we can do, and we should do, to really maximize the experience of people coming to the venue, and I'm confident that we'll do that. And as I said, we're looking at this at the whole campus, from the Shed down to McCormick Place. Very mindful, and I don't want the Friends of the Parks to take this the wrong way, very mindful of what the restrictions are, and we're going to live within the limits that have been set by a court, but I still think that gives us tremendous flexibility to do something big and bold in the Daniel Burnham makes no small plans fashion of Chicago, to make that a year-round destination.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Have a good day. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.